With more extra points, Guerin and Bill Haston, two Tulsa World Sports columnists, wishing everyone a pleasant day and thanking you for your readership as well as your viewer/listenership of this show. Something you can take a look at, take a listen to via our friends at Apple. I don't know if they're friends, but they're like, yeah, they are. They provide a service. Apple, Spotify, and Google, the way to go on that front. Hey, check this out, Bill. 2 nights ago, I wasn't home for trick-or-treating because I was in Stillwater. But I'm still in the spirit, even though I didn't get to give out candy to the kids. Check my costume. This looks like a normal, for those who can't see and are only hearing, this is just a normal white cream colored golf shirt. And then I pop up the logo. Look at that, Bill.
Wow.
Where does that take you back or what?
Yeah.
It's
amazing it still looks so fresh. Like Barry Lewis has a 2007 PGA Championship shirt that he wore one day that week, when we hosted here in May, and it looked like a brand new shirt. And he said, "Well, to be honest, I forgot I had it."
It's the 19. For those who don't know, it's 1997. I'm dressed as a sports talk show host from 1997 in Tulsa. The 1300 logo that was a thing. I'm not sure how else to describe it. It was a thing. Obviously didn't wear it enough because I can still, it still looks fairly mint condition.
Those were the wild west days of Tulsa sports talk.
You don't have to tell me. You were right. I was in it.
From, I would say 94 through about 2000, beyond 2000, through about 03. The wildest, craziest years of every time something consistent would be established, something really good and consistent, for whatever reason, that it'd get the rug pulled out from under them, and it'd change, or a station would change formats.
That's right.
As you well know. It was crazy. Captain Huge. I know a lot of the readers will remember Captain Huge at 1430. That was a wild show. David Garrett, Guerin Emig, Chris Plank, as about a 12-year-old, started at the bus.
Little Plank.
Jeremy Poplin. Holy moly. Michael Del Giorno had a cup of coffee.
Oh gosh, I hadn't thought of that name in a bit.
Yeah.
Where is Captain Huge now? You have any idea?
I think Bill is in Grand Rapids, Michigan, I think.
Is that right? I
was up there for an Oklahoma State game, the 15 opener against Central Michigan. I get a rental car, Guerin. I start the ignition. The first voice I hear, the radio activates, and it's Bill Simons.
Oh my Lord.
Captain Huge. And he was doing his whole, nothing changed with regard to the delivery, and he still refers to himself as Captain Huge and all of it. So, 7 years ago.
What's up, Tulsa?
That did not end well here either, at all.
My tag team partner in the brief time that I was on the air was a guy named John Marble, still a good friend of mine. He's a big Phillies fan, so I've been sending him positive thoughts and vibes over the course of the World Series since his Phils are playing Houston. So another slice of radio history in Tulsa. Don King.
Don King. How do I not mention Don?
What's the program director at 1430?
Don's kind of been the constant denominator.
He just survived a lot of fires.
Yeah, that's right.
That's right.
Last night I had on one screen the World Series, and on the other screen I had the Thunder, and I was trying to come up with a cute little laugh track on my phone here to punctuate what I'm about to say, which I don't want to make a topic of it or a segment, but I do think it's funny that as we speak, the Oklahoma City Thunder has more victories than Russell Westbrook's Lakers and Kevin Durant's Nets combined. So nice start to the season there for the Thunder. This is a fun team to watch. They really are. They've won 4 in a row.
I knew they'd be fun. I just didn't know how many times they'd win.
Right.
I don't know how much longer they're going to win, but right now, it's kind of nice to have them both.
You know what they do? It's really impressive to me. And I really started to take inventory of it like game 3. But man, with those young legs, they get to the rim a lot. And Dort, Giddey, Shea, even Oku a little bit now and then, and Jalen Williams, the rookie from Santa Clara. They use those young legs and they get to the rim. And you know what they get when they get there? They either get fouled or they get a layup.
Right.
And time and time again, they just go get them a layup. Or now you got Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who's the master of the mid-range game. He's the king of the mid-range game as far as I'm concerned in the NBA now. And he just has that beautiful 17 to, I'd say 12 to 18 foot little, he's got his own little territory, and he pulls up and scores beautifully. And you know, he's averaging 31 points a game. Now, granted, it's a 7-game sample size, but you know, I've been wondering, is he really a true one? Is he really a truly a best player on the team, kind of a guy who can get you to the playoffs? And I've said he needs a number one to run with, and I still kind of believe that. But his development's very impressive, and he's a heck of a scorer and a heck of a, you know, and a very mature young guy in a league that has a lot of immature older guys. Put it that way.
That's right. I'll get around to the NBA eventually, I think. Maybe earlier than I imagine. Maybe earlier than I imagine. You know what? I'll probably get around to it earlier than usual, Bill, because college football just doesn't hit us hard this year, because we've got a couple of teams that, I mean, let's be honest, they're not getting anywhere near the playoff. Last night was weird, man. That's the first time in 8 years, years that I haven't been at somewhere where I knew I could see the reveal of the first playoff standings, because I knew it didn't matter a whole lot around here.
That's right. No, I watched it because it's important, but we're just so accustomed to having some sort of, you know, skin in the game, and we just don't. But so the one streak that stayed alive is that the Big 12 has never been represented in the top 4 of the first ranking. It's never happened. Meanwhile, the SEC, and this is all, keep in mind, the advent of the playoff came after 3 years or so after Nebraska and A&M get out of the league. So the diminished Big 12, if you really want to know what the national perception is of the new Big 12, or the more recent big version of the Big 12, there were at least 2 teams, Guerin, in the first 4 of the college football playoff rankings. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of the 9 years we've had it. There's been at least 2 SEC teams. And then, of course, you know, including last night. But quick trivia question before we get back to the here and now. Can you remember who the first, I had to look this up, and if I had guessed for 2 hours, I wouldn't have guessed this team. The first number 1 in the first college football playoff ranking in 2014.
Florida State?
They were in it, but they weren't number 1.
This must be off the beaten path.
It's SEC, but it's not.
But it's not Alabama.
No.
2014. Wouldn't have been LSU.
It was Mississippi State.
Oh, that is a great trivia question.
It is a great trivia question.
Mississippi State was number 1 in the first. I've probably seen that 100 times the last 8 years I've done research, and it doesn't click with me. That was the team. Dan
Mullen. They were unbeaten at that point, obviously, but that also was the only year that the first 4 included 3 SEC teams: Mississippi State, Auburn, Ole Miss, not LSU, not Bama, so not Georgia. So what a weird first 4.
Crazy.
But yeah, I mean, the Big 12's never been higher than 5th in any first 4. And we've seen when OU rallying from 15 to the playoff that it can be done. You can make up a lot of ground, and that the first 4 isn't that critically important. But it, you know, to have TCU at 8, that's just typical. That's just typical of what the view has been of the Big 12 since Nebraska and A&M left town.
Yeah. Well, here's what I would say. You're right. I would also say it's another, again, you're going to get this from me a lot moving forward, but TCU being and that was a team that everyone was wondering about after the reveal last night. Well, there wouldn't be any curiosity. And I think the Horned Frogs, look, if they keep winning, they're going to be fine. I think they might get in it with one loss. It better not be in the Big 12 championship game, but they might get in with one loss. Here's the thing: if this thing was 12 teams like it should be, we wouldn't have to worry about TCU representing the Big 12 because they'd have a bye. They'd be one of the top 4 conference champions. Well, as much as you could say there's a conference champion in November. They'd actually have a bye to the quarterfinals. I think they'd play either Georgia or Tulane. And by the way, how cool would it be to have Tulane in a playoff?
Sure.
But we started the show talking about how sad it is that OSU and OU are not really going to be part of the conversation. There's a world where OSU still is a part of the conversation in a 12-team playoff. Feels strange to say after what happened in Manhattan last week, but it's true. They could win a TCU rematch in Dallas and find their way into somewhere between 10 and 12 potentially. But that is not and again, this is an argument that flies in the face of those who say, well, you expand the field, all you're doing is cheapening or de-emphasizing the regular season. I think it's just the opposite. All that does is invest even more fans in more games a lot longer.
Of course, 1,000%. Yeah.
Not happening right now. What do you? I don't know if there's anything left to say about what happened to the Cowboys Saturday, Bill. It's more about what version of that team comes out in Lawrence against Kansas Saturday. You have any idea?
No, Lord, no. I mean, I knew that, like everybody else knew, that there were issues, that their run game wasn't very good, that their offensive line is kind of what it's been for 10 years, which is not vintage Oklahoma State. I say it, I've written it and said it a million times. If OSU more recently had any of the offensive lines it had between 06 and 2012, what a game changer that would be, for considering the talent that has rolled through there in the last 10 years with Mason Rudolph. Mason got beat up. Mason Rudolph was sacked 32 times one year. But you knew the run game was suspect. You knew the O-line is average. You knew the back end of the defense was, susceptible to giving up some big plays. And it's like everything that could go wrong did go wrong at Manhattan. And then Sanders gets his shoulder dinged, and now you don't know what his status is going up to Lawrence. And Brock Martin said, I guess on Monday, as of the end of Sunday's practice, we had forgotten about Manhattan.
Sure.
That's impossible.
Right.
I mean, it's exactly what you should say, and it's exactly impossible. That's a different kind of loss. And so what kind of psychological wreckage are we looking at? And what if Gunnar Gundy, or for that matter, the other freshman, if the freshman, Rangel, what if he were to get started? I don't know. I mean, is that team ready to win a road game over a solid, I would still say a very solid Kansas team on the road? If they have to go with Guerin, if they have to go with Gunnar Gundy, and without the support of a strong run game. If Gunnar had the 2008 run game behind him,
yeah,
he could probably win that game. But man, I think that was a devastating loss in the moment. But they were kind of due to have. It's been so long since they laid an egg that big. So I guess it happens to everybody. It's happened to you this year. So I mean, I just never dreamed we would see those kinds of scores from the Sooners and the Cowboys in the same season.
Well, your point about the run game is right on. The other thing that's not there is last year's defense to win a 20-10 game if need be.
Right.
And again, this is if Jason Bean is quarterback in Kansas instead of Jalen Daniels, and we'll see. That's still that's still a fairly dangerous offense against an OSU defense that has been sort of bailed out by sort of bending, but not snapping. I won't use the other term.
And plays like an unbelievable tightrope toe tap interception
Yeah.
at Waco and plays like that. Yeah.
And so it's just the situation is set up really uncomfortably if in fact, and it's not because Gundy can't be a good college quarterback. He's just not ready to be a good college quarterback right now. And the Sanders means so much to that team, Bill. He has a presence about him, but it's more pronounced when you don't have Malcolm Rodriguez, Devin Harper, Jalen Warren, Josh Sills, the offensive lineman, Dylan Stoner, Tylan Wallace, Chuba Hubbard. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you feel good walking into an opposing stadium, even Kansas, with guys that you can count on. And Sanders matters in that sense more this year than he ever has, and that's why. Look, I've been on Gundy's horse all year because I think he's coached about as well as he ever has with this team. I think that they did overachieve to be as good as they were. I really do believe that, and that goes for the staff with Mike Gundy. But it doesn't mean he can't get dinged for doing something foolish. And having Sanders in the game with a 41-point deficit,
couldn't believe it. Yeah,
and for him to take the hit that he did, it wasn't a sack. It was a play before the sack where he got popped from behind and got driven into the turf. That's when he re-aggravated the shoulder injury. I know what Mike said. Sanders is a competitive leader, this, that, I get it, but veto power, man.
Right. Common sense.
I don't know. We'll see I hope it doesn't cost him a second loss. I worry it will. OU Baylor, this game doesn't have a lot of sizzle to me. It should have when the schedule came out. I thought this was going to be a fascinating game. Sooners
this game can be viewed only on a streaming device. Isn't that right?
Yes. Yeah. No. This is ESPN Plus. ESPN has put this game on the Plus, and I talked to Joe Castiglione this morning about that. It's interesting.
That's crazy. Mm-hmm.
It is interesting.
That's a first, right? It has to be.
It's the first time their football team has been on a streaming platform that wasn't of OU's choosing. They had the Kent State game in week 2, but that was their own production. It was the Sooner Vision production. Exactly. This is one where, for lack of a better term, they've been relegated to ESPN Plus because Big Fox took TCU and Texas Tech. Then Fox Sports 1 took Texas, Kansas State, and OSU, Kansas. So the other two games are both going to be streamed around midday. So that is weird. Joe Castiglione, his take is, look, fans who haven't embraced it need to now. This will help that cause. It will help promote our third tier programming platform. He's right about that. He got to pick the kickoff time, Bill. I didn't realize that until he confirmed it.
Well, it is an unusual kickoff time.
2:00. So you'd rather have a 2:00 game than an 11 a.m. game, which they were looking at if one of the networks had picked it up. But it is still it's a little uncomfortable. I guess I'd put it that way.
I mean, personally, I think the perfect, if you can schedule without considering television or having it dictated to you, I think 1:00 is the perfect kick. But when I saw 2 p.m. initially, without seeing the TV details, I was like, what? And then I thought, wow, okay, this thing's streaming. And I looked it up, and sure enough, it is. So as a game, if you can just relax and just chill and watch, chill's a bad choice of words, but if you can just watch it for 60 minutes of football in the moment, it should be a really good game. Mm-hmm. And it should be, there's a little bit of a desperation. What did Brent say Monday? He's talking about, basically becoming a 10-win football team. I thought, wow, okay. There is that out there, that possibility.
Yes, there is.
And this would be on par with, they can't win a Big 12. Well, what am I saying? I mean,
well, they technically, but it's, we're talking
long shot. But yeah, I mean, this would be one of the great underrated or improbable 10-win type seasons. If like 06, maybe
yes,
Omar is out.
Yes.
Thompson's back. 10-win year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if they can squeeze 10 out of a season in which they lose by 49 in the Cotton Bowl, that would be a remarkable and I think a great finish to a tough first season for Brent if he can rally these guys to run the table, which would include a Bedlam win. Yeah, but I mean, Baylor's really disappointed, and they want to win this as much as OU wants to win this. So it's a really, really interesting, watchable game. It just doesn't resonate,
Right.
And that an OU November game has resonated for so long.
Mm-hmm.
It's been that long since OU played November games that weren't consumed and on a national level for their importance and impact on the rest of the standings.
That's right. Last two Big 12 champions. It just doesn't quite feel like that is what Baylor and Oklahoma comes down to. TU is playing Tulane this week, and that game feels, speaking of uncomfortable, man. Willie, you know who's probably the national coach of the year? Well, it's Josh Heupel, right?
Has to be. Yeah. I mean, a lot of Sonny Dykes. I mean, remember
Sonny Dykes would get some consideration for sure.
First month it was Leipold.
Yeah.
I would have probably at some point gone down the list and say, oh, Josh Heupel's having a nice year. But I would have had those other guys ahead of Josh. And then of course now Josh is has lapped the field.
Yeah. Well,
keep it going.
Yeah. The guy who's going to get short shrift on that is Willie Fritz for the job he's done at Tulane this year.
I hope one of these secondary coach of the year type awards though finds a way to give this guy a trophy, because they are having a, they got what's the kickoff time on this game, Guerin? Tulsa Tulane.
I'm looking right now. 11 a.m.
11 o'clock. Tulane has the best defense in the American, both from a scoring standpoint and a yardage standpoint. Davis Brin got chopped down pretty hard the other day, and you wonder where he is physically now. And you wonder where that team, the story, what did I see? A headline on TulsaWorld.com yesterday. TU basically suggesting that TU is kind of the frustration of what has happened to this point. They're wiping it all away, and they're just focused on replicating what they did last year.
Yeah.
Which is a second half rally that ended up with a 500 regular season and a bowl win. Sort of like OSU. I mean, TU over a period of about 4 years had really special defenses, and it's not quite as special now. Just like OSU. I mean, we're talking about last year, the Oklahoma State defense last year was the best, if not the best since '84. It was one of the two best since '84 in that program. And the last 4 years of TU, Bill Young going into Joseph Gillespie, those were special defenses. And they've taken a step back. TU's not terrible defensively, but they're not what they've been.
Yeah.
And now you've got Davis Brin, who, if he's not out, he will be diminished and sore. And this is a tough home game. So for Tulsa to match what it did a year ago, Guerin, they're 3-5 now. The remaining games: Tulane at Memphis next Thursday, and then on Friday the 18th, they got two weeknight games coming up back to back at Memphis, and then South Florida here, and then on Thanksgiving Saturday they close at Houston. So Tulane's ranked, Houston's loaded up with playmakers.
I kind of thought they needed to beat SMU to get to 6.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I considered that for TU to do what it did last year. Beating SMU at home was an absolute had to win that game. So I'll be really kind of blown away I was blown away last year when they did it.
I was too.
Yeah, but if they pull it off this year with the circumstances as they are, and if they don't, I mean, 2012 was Bill Blankenship's 11-win conference title, bowl win over Iowa State season. This is the 10th season since that season. And if Tulsa does not figure out a way to win 3 of the next 4 and a bowl. This will be the 7th losing season for the program in 10 years. So, a little bit of time to reflect, take inventory at T, and if you want to continue to run with Philip, then the university needs to say, okay, Philip, what do you need? I mean, we would love to build you the nicest indoor in the country, and we would like to do everything we could possibly, anything you could imagine, we would love to do it for you. But what can we do within reason, within our limits financially? What can we do for you to help? And then Philip has to ask himself, what do we need to do differently?
Yeah.
But it's tough for me to see 3 more wins on the schedule.
Yep. Got time for one quick question. Will Jenks be any closer to Bixby on ESPN than Booker T was a few years ago?
That was a 70-21 kind of game.
Something like that.
Wow. Kind of running out of ways to describe and frame Bixby's place in with what they're doing. I mean, as far as history. I asked Barry Lewis last night, in your lifetime, and I would say Barry's lifetime of really, really watching and being aware of Tulsa area high school football. I'm going to go ahead and just say from the age of 15 on, that Barry's been very, very aware of every of everything, really. I mean, if you want to even go down to minor league hockey, but we're just talking about high school football. But I asked him, can you ever remember a season in which the very best team in this area was this much better than the best of the rest?
Yeah.
No. He's never seen a gap like this between the best team and the best of the rest, or the rest of the field. I don't know. I mean, anything's possible. Every streak ends at some point. I saw Jenks the other night win somewhat miraculously with a great comeback, and Ike Owens had an amazing 4th quarter and overtime. BA gets a extra point blocked in overtime, and Jenks dances the night away with a 1 point. And Bixby beat BA by 60.
Yeah.
7-17.
Yeah.
Bixby has outscored 9 opponents by 541 points. 68-8 is the average final score. It's unbelievable, except it is believable because I've seen them play a bunch of times. And but the way they've done it is so impressive. And you keep looking for what is the secret to this? There ain't no secret to it. They just let their guts out. And it's like the Soviet hockey team or something. It's just crazy, the commitment, you know what I mean? And so Lauren Montgomery is I went out there and watched him practice Tuesday or Monday. I guess it was Monday. And he's running around out there playing scout team quarterback. And I've been to probably 20 Bixby practices over the last couple of years, and every single practice looks exactly alike. Exactly alike. When you arrive, you know exactly where the O-line or the offensive linemen are going to be drilling, and you know where Lauren Montgomery is going to be standing in that moment, and you know what they're going to be working. There's an unbelievable consistency to Bixby football. So that's a really long-winded of saying. I mean, you have to expect Bixby to win the game. Bixby's a pretty healthy football team with 2 great high school quarterbacks and a great defense, and really more overwhelming momentum than I've ever seen any high school football team sustain over a 4-year period ever in my career. So I expect Bixby to win. I'll be interested to see if Jenks comes out with some wildly creative gadget plays, and you know what I mean? I don't know how she just. I don't know how anybody can just line up straight up and just beat Bixby without some trickery. I don't know how you do that. Having said that, I'm so disappointed that the weather has thrown a kink into the schedule, because I was going to see Muskogee and Stillwater on Friday in a matchup of 9-0 teams, right? And that's like the game of the week in the state, and but that'll have to be played now on Thursday as well. So, yeah. But I wouldn't miss Bixby Jenks because of the potential for history.
Yep,
it's historic either way.
Mm-hmm.
Bixby 10-0 run in its first season in 6A1, or Jenks ends that streak. Something interesting is going to happen. So we'll see.
All right, you've got Spartans Trojans. I will be in Lawrence watching the Cowboys and the Jayhawks. You'll be reading what we write about those games, and hopefully what others on the Tulsa World staff provide. We bust our butts a lot. We thank you for rewarding us for our work by reading our work, and occasionally listening and watching as well, as we do shows like Extra Points. This has been another edition of that. We'll talk to you next week. Please stay dry if it does rain as much as I say it's going to, and enjoy the football.
Yeah.